Are Melffys the culmination of societal depression and the ensuing desire for modern escapism, manifesting in the form of a fantasy reminiscent of the simpler times of childhood? Maybe. The Melffy are definitely timid woodland critters living in an enchanted forest, hanging out with friends, playing games, and building sprite endboards. With a cute pastel tone and round stubby bodies, the Melffy are reminiscent of characters from children's illustrated storybooks, which makes sense given that the name Melffy, or Melffy in Japanese, is a combination of American and Fee, German for fairy tale and fairy respectively. This suggests ties between the Melffy and German fairy tales. However, traditional German fairy tales are often quite terrifying, so I'm not entirely convinced that that's the whole story. Instead, Melffys remind me a lot more of another iconic collection of cute animals, ones with their own pastel color palette and of Japanese origin, that may or may not be about societal depression. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take a step back and go over Konami's basic cover story for the Melffys. Fairy tales are short stories that weave tales of magic, enchanted forests, and whimsical creatures that have sparked the imaginations of children and adults alike. We're all familiar with a common fairy tale opener, Once Upon a Time, which evokes a time long, long ago when the world was still magical. Among the most popular are the classic German fairy tales collected by the brothers Grimm, such as Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel, and Snow White. Though they were a lot more gruesome than the versions we know today, as they weren't stories strictly intended for children. The perception of children as the primary audience for fairy tales is a more modern shift. It wasn't until Disney tapped into the rich potential of these public domain stories for the big screen that the modern perception of fairy tales became cemented in our public consciousness as stories for children. So what characteristics do the Melffy share with the German fairy tales? Well, a big one is the enchanted forest. It's kinda in the name, Melffy of the Forest. These enchanted forests are typically unknown places full of danger, doubling as a place of refuge and potential adventure. Particularly in the Grimm's fairy tales, the hero often finds themselves headed into a forest like Little Red Riding Hood, Little Red Cap in Grimm's version, entering the woods to deliver cake and wine to her grandmother where she meets the wolf. Hansel and Gretel were abandoned in the woods where they stumbled upon a house made of sweets. Snow White was meant to be killed but fled into the woods where she was taken in by 7 dwarves. While the forests themselves aren't always enchanted, they often contain enchantments outside a normal human experience, serving as a place for transformation. For us Yu-Gi-Oh players, we may have entered the woods in search of meta potential, but instead discovered a happy little forest full of squishy woodland critters. Whether as sentient beings with their own motives, or just background characters to move the plot along, woodland critters have frequently appeared in many folk stories. But once again, it was Disney's rendition of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs that really popularized them as fairy tale staples. In Snow White, the titular character, distraught and lost in the woods, sings a song that prompts a group of timid, yet friendly critters to flock around her. The focus on cute, innocent animals aimed to brighten the tone of these originally gruesome stories and appeal to a child audience. Disney's take on Grimm's fairy tales was so influential that even across the ocean, many Japanese creators were inspired by this portrayal of cute woodland critters. This influence can be traced from characters like Hello Kitty and the Sylvanian families, all the way to the Melffys and Yugioh. Pretty innocent stuff so far. It's pretty clear that the Melffys follow a long tradition of children's stories and character portrayals. But that's not all. Melffy spell and trap cards reference childhood games many of us may remember playing, like Melffy Tag for the game of tag, Melffy Hide and Seek for hide and seek, Melffy Playhouse for playing house, and Melffy Staring Contest for, what else? A staring contest. All examples with proven enduring appeal, having existed for centuries across many cultures and various forms. As children's games, they evoke a sense of playfulness and nostalgia for a seemingly simpler time. It's almost like the Melffys exist in an isolated world of childhood fun and wonder, unadulterated by adulthood. I know I joked about Melffys representing our desires to escape reality and return to childhood, but the more I think about it, the more convinced I am that they follow in a cultural trend of longing for simpler times. According to Sharon Kinsella, an expert in Japanese culture, the general belief that childhood is another world, in some ways an ideal world, has been the dominant perception of childhood throughout the developed world for most of the 20th century. During this time, Disney created films embodying ideas of a sentimental journey back into an idealized rural society populated with happy little animals and rural characters taken from folk stories. Similarly, Melffys exist in an idealized rural society populated with happy little animals enjoying childhood fun and games. This other world seems to symbolically offer us Yu-Gi-Oh players a means of return to childhood. Just like the timid Melffys that hide at the first sign of danger, perhaps what we truly desire is an escape from our problems and responsibilities. On that note, let us escape and immerse ourselves in a fantastical world with a story time with Melffys.
Once upon a time, in a magical forest so lush and so green, lived Melffy Rabby, a curious bean. Rabby loved to explore and play with all the forest friends every day. Oh look, Rabby's up on that favourite stump again, looking for fluffy friends in the forest glen. Do you like exploring too? Good, let's go find more Melffy friends with you. There's Melffy Puppy the pup, Melffy Catty the cat. Wake up Melffy Pandy the panda, there's no time to nap. There's Melffy Pony the pony, and Melffy Fenny the fox. That's a lot of new friends, much more than we thought. With a twitch of a nose, Rabby called out loud, "Come, Melffy of the forest, gather round, join the crowd. Let's play hide and seek, the forest's grand, among the trees where adventure's at hand." Rabby counted to 10 with eyes shut tight. "Ready or not, here I come!" Rabby exclaimed with delight. Rabby searched behind bushes and behind a tree trunk, found Melffy Chinny the chinchilla with a little plunk. "I found you!" Rabby giggled with glee. "Next game's tag, let's all run free." Melffy Pony became it, the fastest you see, chasing after friends through the forest with glee. After playing tag, the Melffys were beat, so they gathered around for a tasty treat. The stump full of fruits, joyous Melffys could feast, and with full bellies their joy increased. Hey, forest Melffys, with excitement anew, let's look for more friends, both old and new. Oh look, there's Melffy Pinny, a friend of the sea, along with merry Melffys, as merry as can be. With more friends around, let's start our next game. Commence the staring contest, our eyes are aflame. In a circle we sat, trying not to blink. Rabby's whiskers twitched, trying to think. Alas, I blinked, and Rabby cheered, "I win! What a wonderful time this game has been." As the day waned and shadows grew long, the Melffys grew tired, their energy gone. "We should head back," I said with a yawn. "Back home to Melffy Mommy before it is dawn." Trotting back to the forest, Melffy Mommy entered sight, the shape of her figure lit in the dim twilight. What is that? Is that what Mommy looks like? My mind was uneasy, thinking, no, that can't be right. What even is Melffy Mommy with that eerie disguise? Like a man in a creepy fur suit, now I'm definitely surprised. "Maybe let's not," I murmured with dread. Already taking steps back, I say, "Let's turn back instead." Back in the forest, Rabby climbs onto the stump. "Today was the best day," Rabby exclaims with a jump. With that, the moon rises, the stars twinkle bright. It is now time for the Melffys to bid each other good night. Back to the burrows, cosy nests, where dreams abound. Good night, fluffy Melffys, drift on to sleep safe and sound.
So, the Melffys. This is actually the first archetype I wrote about that I haven't actually played myself. Instead, I was inspired by a friend picking it up as their main deck. After getting Kalantosa-ed one too many times, I felt like I should return the favor. Also, Cuchutrain, another friend, uses Melffy Rabby as his avatar, so it seemed like I should use this chance to call him out. He creates Duel Links content, and in his words, some of it's even good. I enjoy his series on degenerate Duel Links strategies, so if you crave something lighter in tone than my stuff, you should go check out his channel. Thanks for watching this video, and I guess I'll see y'all in the next one.